And his thesis is considered as one of the path-breaking in the field of leadership, studies from ancient texts. So that's really amazing. And Prabhuji has written more than 40 books now. And these are only sample. It's what we have here. And his best-selling books, many of you may know, many of you may have, but wonderful books. Ramayan, The Game of Life is the best-selling series. He's also the author of Open-Eyed Meditations. Even the names are very catchy. Every name of his book is very catchy. And many such mystical tales of magical life and many such series are right here. And the focus of his work is the application of scriptural wisdom to day-to-day life and also the addressing needs of corporates and the youth through power-packed seminars. He's been 11 years as a monk in Radha Gopinath temple. He has also served in various leadership positions. Haribo! He's also served in various leadership roles in congregational development as well as management. He's also heading ISKCON Goa. More than 2,500 devotees there. He's heading there and they are growing rapidly. And he's also heading Tulsi Books. All of you might have heard. Tulsi Books are a very popular publishing house. He's also heading them. He is pioneer of Gita Champions League. Now it is an international competition to promote Gita learning. Prabhuji has delivered more than 6,000 talks, inspiring more than 600,000 people. And he has given talks in all the prominent universities, top universities in the world, all the Ivy Leagues. And he's also spoken at all the big corporates like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Samsung, in their headquarters, world headquarters in USA. And he travels all around the world to share this message. So once again, we are very, very fortunate and happy to have with us His Grace Subha Vilas Prabhuji. So let us welcome Prabhuji with 3 loud Hari Bols.
Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol!
His Grace Subha Vilas Prabhuji ki
Jai!
I request devotees to move forward because as they join, it will be easy for them to join back.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya
Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari
Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari
Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana
Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana
Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana
Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari
चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदां सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Very happy, grateful and honored to be here amidst all of you all. Today we'll be speaking some very interesting thoughts from the Ramayana that will help you appreciate the scripture in a much deeper and in a more enlightening manner. All our scriptures, all our Vedic scriptures, are existing at multiple levels. According to your ability to perceive, you can perceive them differently. So the same story, the same scripture, the same verses, seen by 10 different people, they'll convey 10 different things. It's not that the verses change. It's not that the stories change. It's just that your level of realization determines how much depth you can see in that story. There is no limit of how much you can learn from the stories of the Ramayana. I have been studying the Ramayana for the last more than 10 years now. And every single day I realize and find newer understandings of different aspects of the Ramayana. And it just continues to amaze me how much we can absorb from one story. If you look at the modern stories that that are very famous today, whether it is Harry Potter or whether it is the Matrix or the Spider-Man or Game of Thrones or whatever it is, they have flat narrations. Flat narrations means there's one perspective. Beyond that perspective, there is no second perspective. That's all there is. What you can see is what exists. But the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, these are not flat narratives. These are multi-layered narratives and multi-dimensional narratives. And that is why they have existed from time immemorial. And more than that, these are Aparushya. Valmiki Muni, when he was about to write the Ramayana, he was given a blessing by Lord Brahma that he will be able to perceive things that no one knows. He will be able to understand the emotions of the characters while they are going through it. He will be able to understand and realize things that no one in the world has ever understood and realized. with the blessings of Brahma, Valmiki wrote. And then Brahmaji also blesses him that your Ramayan will eternally remain ever fresh. As long as there are mountains, as long as there are rivers, as long as there are oceans, till that point in time, Valmiki Ramayana will be famous. Now, after getting a blessing like this, then you write, what else do you expect, isn't it? What else do you expect than something that lasts for time immemorial? And when we study a scripture like that, it helps us at so many levels. Therefore, when we study the Ramayana, let us study it from the understanding that it's an ocean. In fact, Kamba Muni, who is one of the poets who's written the Ramayana in Tamil poetry, he gives a very beautiful analogy. He says, Valmiki Ramayana is like an ocean of milk. Has anyone seen an ocean of milk? Very difficult to digest or understand the ocean of milk, isn't it? I mean, the first question is, does it get spoiled the next day? The milk, you keep it one day, next day it gets spoiled, right? Imagine an ocean of milk getting spoiled, It's an ocean of milk. Valmiki Ramayana is like an ocean of milk, he says. And Kamba Muni says, I am like a cat. Cats are very interested in milk, isn't it? So imagine a cat standing in front of the ocean of milk. How much milk can a cat drink from the ocean? Hardly. A cat has such a small capacity, isn't it? So Kamba Muni says, Valmiki Ramayana is like an ocean of milk. I am like a cat. My ability to digest that is very little. So what I am presenting is only that much that I have understood and I have digested. Nobody can say I have digested the ocean. Nobody can ever say that. So if Kamba Muni is like a cat, then what about us? We are like, less than ants, isn't it? And that one drop of, the nectar of the Valmiki Ramayana is enough to drown us. Today we're just going to discuss one drop from the ocean, Valmiki Ramayana. And hopefully that will really touch us, inspire us in our journeys of spiritual life. When Lord Ram reached the southern tip of the Indian Ocean, where there was 800-mile ocean to cross, and no one knew what to do. There was a huge Vanara army, not like 100, 200, 300 people, there were like millions of Vanaras. And Ram was wondering, what do I do to cross this ocean? At that time, as Ram was wondering, he asked Vibhishan, who was Ravan's brother. Vibhishan had just joined, Lord Ram. And Ram asked Vibhishan, what should we do? What is your opinion? What should we do? Vibhishan explained to Lord Ram that it is good if we pray to the ocean god and get his permission. And if the ocean god is pleased with us and he gives us permission, then we can, cross the ocean easily. And then Lord Ram turned to Lakshman, his own brother, and he asked him, what do you think we should do? Lakshman gave an exact opposite answer. He said, forget praying and all that. Who will waste time praying? Let's dry up the ocean with our bow and arrow, Now here is something very interesting. On one hand, Ram's own brother is giving an opinion. On the other hand, the enemy's brother is giving an opinion. Now, obviously, whose opinion you will take more seriously? Your own brother or your enemy's brother?
Own brother.
Lakshman Ram knows for last 40 years. And Vibhishan he knows for probably 40 minutes. So whom will you trust more? Will you trust someone whom you know for 40 years? Or will you trust someone you know for 40 minutes? Ram is a very interesting personality. See, all of us, we are experts in building walls. What is the meaning of building walls? Between two people, if there is a wall, what happens?
Distance.
It creates distance. You can't see each other. You can't understand each other. You can't connect with each other, isn't it? So we are all experts in building walls. That means we either like somebody or don't like somebody. If we like somebody, then there is no wall. And if we don't like somebody, we build a wall immediately. But Ram is expert in building bridges. He doesn't build walls, he builds bridges. You will never find Ram pushing away somebody. You will always find Ram somehow or the other accommodating that person. No matter how bad the person is, somehow Lord Ram tries to accommodate that person. So look at Lord Ram's interesting way of dealing with this tricky, sticky, and a very strange situation. Ram tells Vibhishan and Lakshman, I will do what both of you are saying, but I'll do it in the order in which you have said it. I will first do what Vibhishan says for 3 days. And if what Vibhishan says doesn't work for 3 days, then I'll do what Lakshman says. And both of them become happy. So Ram has managed to please both of them, And actually that's what happens. So Lord Ram sits, on the Darba shrine for 3 days. Ram spreads Darba grass on the beach. And he sits on it for 3 consecutive days. He does not get up. He does not eat. He does not drink. He's just sitting there constantly. Even now, if you go to Tamil Nadu, Rameshwaram, there is a temple which is very ancient and one of the Divyadesams. It is known as Tirupullani. And this is a temple where the Lord he's one of the deity is known as Darbashayan Ram. He's actually sleeping on the Darba grass. And after 3 days of sleeping like this and sitting like this and praying like this, the ocean god doesn't come out. Then Lord Ram tells Lakshman, get my bow and arrow. And here, Lakshman, who is supposed to be the angry person waiting for a fight, waiting for a war, when it comes to actually fighting in this particular situation, Lakshman goes and gets the bow of Lord Ram. Ram asks him, what about the arrow? You only got the bow. Who will get the arrow? What will you do with only a bow? Lakshman says, oh, I forgot. He goes and gets an arrow, and he gets a small, tiny arrow. Ram says, I want to dry up this ocean. You give me such a tiny arrow. What is this? Get me a big arrow. So the acharyas give an explanation why Lakshman is hesitating to now, actually when it came to turn to drying up the ocean, why is Lakshman hesitating here? The acharyas explain that when Bharat took the Paduka of Lord Ram, so Bharat takes the Paduka of Lord Ram back to Ayodhya, and Bharat worships the Paduka of Lord Ram every day. And he does Abhishek of the Paduka of Lord Ram in the Sarai river. And it is explained, now that means the dust of the lotus feet of Lord Ram is entering the Sarai river. And the Sarai river is entering into the ocean. So that means the Sarai river has become purified by the dust of Lord Ram's feet. And the ocean has become purified by the dust of Lord Ram's feet. So Lakshman is thinking, how can we dry up the ocean which is purified by the dust of Ram's feet? So Lakshman is saying, we should not do it. Suddenly he got a new realization. And then finally, obviously, the ocean god comes out and he agrees to help Lord Ram. The interesting thing about this story is, if you're wondering whether actually Lakshman and and Vibhishan connect with each other, the proof is when Ravan attacks Vibhishan during the war. Ravan throws a spear at Vibhishan, and Lakshman comes in between and takes the spear on his chest. So imagine, this is the impact of the way Ram has bridged the gap between these two people. To the extent that Lakshman went on to take an arrow on his chest for Vibhishan. So that's how Lord Ram brings together people. All of us, like Lord Ram, we should learn to build bridges. It is easy to build walls. It doesn't require too much skill to build walls, isn't it? Even a small child can build a wall. But to build a bridge, it requires a lot of engineering expertise. To build a bridge, it requires a lot of intelligence. It requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of tolerance. It requires a lot of skill. And that is what human beings should be doing, building bridges. Every story in the Ramayana is simultaneously on an external level entertaining, but on an internal level deeply enlightening. I'm going to share with you all a very interesting story in the Ramayana, which is one of the foundational stories of the Ramayana. It's about the exile of Lord Ram and the episode that happened during the exile of Lord Ram. And it's a very interesting story at that. There are two types of diseases in this world. There are mental diseases and there are physical diseases. Physical diseases, some of them spread rapidly and some of them don't spread. Like if somebody has cancer and I sit with a cancer patient, it's not that I'm going to get cancer. If somebody has malaria and I sit with a malaria patient, it's not that I'm going to get malaria. But if somebody has coronavirus, I don't even know if it exists, Anyway, something like that, you sit with that person, there's a good chance you will get it. Right? So, of course, in India, coronavirus has a very different level of operation. When we go in flights in India, during the pandemic, something strange used to happen. So we used to all sit with masks on, compulsory, The flight is in the air, and after 20-25 minutes of flight being in the air, they serve meals. Everybody removes their mask. 20 minutes, Corona has taken a break. Everybody eats nicely, and then after eating nicely, everybody puts mask again. Virus will come back. Anyway, so so some diseases are, physical diseases spread fast, and some don't. But all mental diseases spread fast. If you sit with someone who has a mental disease, very good chance you will also get it. You sit with someone who is envious of somebody else, very good chance you will also become envious. You sit with someone who is constantly complaining, criticizing, very good chance you will also start doing that. So anyone who has a mental disease, you sit with that person for a short duration of time, you will get it. In Ayodhya, there was only one person who had a mental disease, and that was Manthara. So there are two personalities in Ramayana. There is Manthara and there is Sumanthara. Manthara, the word manthan means churning. So churning leads to a lot of stuff, right? But there are two types of churning. There is normal churning and there is good churning. Normal churning is called Manthara and good churning is called Sumanthara. The word Su means good, which means you use your intelligence in two ways. One in a destructive way and one in a constructive way. You can use your intelligence to unite people. You can use your intelligence to divide people. Office politics, ISKCON politics, I'm sure all of you all know of all this, right? So, those who are political people, they use their intelligence a lot. But they use their intelligence to divide people. Even to be political, you have to be intelligent. You can't be just like that political, You have to have some intelligence for being diplomatic also and duplicitous also, isn't it? But you can use that to divide or you can use that to unite. And that's a disease. When you use your intelligence to divide people, it's a disease. It's a mental disease. So originally Manthara had that mental disease. But Kaikeyi spent some amount of time with Manthara. And in that little duration that Kaikeyi spent with Manthara, she also got that disease. And once Kaikeyi got the disease, the proof that she had mental disease was that she went into Kopa Bhavan. In the palaces of the past, there would be rooms for everything. If you want to laugh, there is a room. Go there, you will feel like laughing. And if you want to cry, there is a room. In most houses today, in one room only everything happens. All rasas happen in one room,
Especially in New York.
Yeah, absolutely. The bigger the city, the smaller the room. So Kaikeyi went into Kopa Bhavan. Kopa Bhavan means it's a sulking chamber. It is a room meant for crying. So the moment you enter the room, the environment of the room is such that you will feel like crying automatically. So, who will go into a sulking chamber? If somebody has good mood, will you go into the sulking chamber? Obviously you will not, isn't it? That means she's got mentally affected. So Dasharath comes. Dasharath was mentally completely stable, normal. And he comes to know that Kaikeyi has gone into Kopabhavan. If somebody has got a mental disease, better you bring a doctor, isn't it? To deal with that person. Ideally, Dasharath could have got Vashishta, the guru, to deal with the mental disease that Kaikeyi is going through. But he went in with full confidence. Some preachers think they can solve all problems. And they enter into the Kopabhavan, try to find solutions to mental problems of people. Very dangerous. Overconfidence is very risky, isn't it? So Dasharath Maharaj went in with full confidence that I will take care of her. So when Dasharath Maharaj went into the sulking chamber, he saw a very interesting scene. Kaikeyi, the queen of the country, she was lying on the floor with her clothes tattered, her hair disheveled, ornaments thrown here and there, and she was crying constantly. So Dasharath, when he went there, he saw her lying on the floor. He was standing next to her and talking to her, trying to encourage her, trying to pacify her, trying to comfort her. Dasharath spent 10 minutes in that room with Kaikeyi. After 10 minutes, Dasharath was lying on the floor, Kaikeyi was standing. Role reversal. Kaikeyi stood up. Absolutely normal. Dasharath is on the floor. This is what happens when you associate with somebody who has a mental disease. You will also get it. And Dasharath is crying now. Now, if a normal person gets a mental disease or it gets any disease, 3-4 members in the family get disease, isn't it? If one fellow gets fever, 3-4 people in the family all get fever, one after another. But if a king of the land gets a disease, the entire country gets a disease. By next morning, the whole of Ayodhya was crying. This is the power of leaders being affected by mental disease. The whole country was crying. Everyone in Ayodhya was crying. And when everyone in Ayodhya was crying, 2 people walked out of Ayodhya. Sita and Ram. God and peace walks out from your life. When you get affected by mental disease, these 2 people walk out from your life. And in that entire country, there was only one person who was not affected by this mental disease, and that was Vashishta, Guru of Ayodhya. But Vashishta, he realized, there are too many people who are sick. I can't handle them. I need help from outside. And therefore he called Bharat from Kaikeyi Desh. Vashishta considered Bharat to be a Dharmatma. He called Bharat to help him deal with thousands of people who are disturbed mentally. When Bharat came in, he saw so many people mentally disturbed, the whole of Ayodhya is in a chaos. Immediately Bharat said, I can't do this. It's not my capacity. It's not my ability. He was not confident, overconfident like Dasharath. He didn't think that, okay, I'll cure everyone. He said, no, this is not, I can't do it. He said, the only person who can cure so many people's sickness at one go is Lord Ram. He said, let us take everyone to Ram. And he took the whole of Ayodhya to Chitrakoot. And the moment all the Ayodhya-vasis who were so mentally disturbed saw Lord Ram, the moment they saw him, their mental disease was gone. Bharat represents a honest preacher who will tell you, I can't solve your problems, but I can connect you to God who will take care of your problems, who will give you the strength to deal with your problems. And that honesty is what is required to be able to deal with people's issues. So if everything we take on ourselves, saying that I will only solve the problem, then you're playing God, isn't it? And that honesty is so very important. And that is why Bharat is considered to be a very special person. The word Bharata means the one whose bhava, raga and tala are in sync with Lord Ram. Everything he thinks, everything he experiences and everything he does is very much in sync with how Lord Ram would want it to happen. So Ramayana is not just a story, as I began by saying. It's deep. It's very deep. And when you go into the depths of Ramayana, that is when you start enjoying the Ramayana. That's when you start enjoying the beauty of this epic. A very beautiful incident in the Ramayana is, in fact, the whole of Ramayana has one very primary rasa. And the primary rasa of the Ramayana is known as Karuna Ras. The Mahabharata has all rasas. You'll find, all the primary and secondary rasas in the Mahabharata. But Ramayana primarily has one main rasa, which is Karuna Ras. And what is the meaning of Karuna Ras? Karuna Ras means it's compassion. It's also empathy. And in the entire Ramayana, you'll find everyone crying. Sita is crying, Ram is crying, Dasharath is crying, Kaikeyi is crying, Kaushalya is crying, Bharat is crying. All the people in the leadership, they're all crying. When the leaders cry, the followers are happy. And when the leaders are laughing, the followers are crying. In today's world, you'll find all leaders laughing and all followers crying, isn't it? So the Ramayana is a book of responsibility. It's a book of leadership. And because it's a book of leadership, the leaders take on the pain of people. It's a sacrifice. It's a mode of sacrifice. But in the Ramayana, there is one particular section which is a little different. It has a different rasa, which is known as Hasya Ras. Hasya Ras means comedy, humor. Interestingly, in the Ramayana, you'll find one section which is very funny. In this section, you'll find Shurpanaka comes to Janasthan, where Lord Ram, Lakshmana and Sita are residing. The background towards why Shurpanaka is there is that Ravan one day, he has a heated argument in his courtroom. And by mistake, he kills Shurpanaka's husband. And Shurpanaka's husband, his name is Vidyujit. By mistake, Ravan kills him. I mean, imagine, by mistake killing someone. And then he goes and tells Shurpanaka, sorry, I killed your husband by mistake. And he says, just to make up for it, I will give you Janasthan. You become the queen of Janasthan, and I'll give you 14,000 soldiers headed by Kharadushan. Enjoy yourself. She says thank you and she goes over there. Completely forgot about her husband, She's happy that she's got a, Janasthan and she's got like a whole kingdom for herself. And Ravan tells her, you go there to Janasthan and you get married to anybody. So essentially, Shurpanaka was there looking for a husband for herself, roaming around in the forest. And that's when she comes across Lord Ram. When Shurpanaka sees Lord Ram, she gets mesmerized by Lord Ram's beauty. She's completely mesmerized. And Valmiki Muni does a very interesting thing. In this section, he compares Shurpanaka's bodily features with Lord Ram's bodily features, part by part. He says, Shurpanaka, her eyes are like a socket. Bulb we put a socket. Eyes are like that socket, And Lord Ram's eyes are like a beautiful lotus petal. Shurpanaka, her hair is coppery red and it's like struck with electricity. In today's time, we call it spikes. That hairstyle originated in Lanka. Red spikes. That's Shurpanaka's hairstyle. And Lord Ram's hair is soft like silk and curvy, flowing so beautifully. Lord Ram, when he speaks, every word he utters is uttered in Bhairav Swara. Bhairav Swara is a particular type of Swara which is considered to be the most melodious type of tune. So whatever Ram speaks is in Bhairav Swara. And when Shurpanaka speaks, The example is when you take a tin sheet and scratch it with a nail. The sound that comes, a shrill, screechy sound, that is Shurpanaka's voice. Ram's hips are so thin. And it is explained, you put your finger like this is the extent of Lord Ram's hip. And Shurpanaka's hip is like a barrel, Say, in Hindi you say, kamar nahi hai, kamra hai. It's not a waist, it's a room, basically. So like this, Valmiki Muni is comparing, If you see Lord Ram's face once, you feel like seeing again and again and again. He's so mesmerizingly beautiful. But you see Shurpanaka's face once, you won't get sleep for many nights. Very scary, very dangerous looking. And Shurpanaka says, she comes to Lord Ram and she tells him, you are a handsome man, I'm a beautiful woman. Let's get married. See, the interesting thing about this material world is that the ugliest person thinks he is beautiful, or he or she is beautiful, isn't it? The illusion is so powerful. You look at yourself in the mirror, nobody will see an ugly person staring back. That's the nature of illusion. The nature of illusion is that it makes you feel more superior than what you deserve or what you actually are.
Survival instinct, probably.
Yeah, whatever we can call it. Scientific ways of calling Maya. So the point is, Ramayan is bringing in this element of Hasya Ras over here. Why here? Because this is a turning point in the Ramayana. Interestingly, there are two important turning points in the Ramayana. And in both the turning points, there is a woman involved. In the first turning point, there is a mantra involved. And the second turning point, there is Shurpanaka involved. And the interesting thing is that in both the cases, Lord Ram has done some masti, some humor, some fun with them. When Shurpanaka comes proposing to Ram like this, she tells him, let's get married. Ram, obviously he is amazed. He's just amazed. Looking at her brashness and considering her comparison, Lord Ram, he just thinks that 13 years we have suffered so much. We had such an intense life. Let's have some fun, So he tells Shurpanaka that I am already married. But my brother is there who doesn't have a wife. Why didn't you go and meet him? So Shurpanaka looks at Lakshman. And then she realizes, hey, he's also handsome. She suddenly goes there, He tells him, can you get married to me, Lakshman tells her, hey, I am the servant of Ram. And if you become my wife, you will become servant of the servant. It's ideal. That's the ideal thing to do, actually. But, from Shurpanaka's point of view, it's like, demeaning, right? So he says, I am already serving Sita and Ram. If you get married to me, you will have to serve all three of us. So Lakshmana says, you should go back to get married to Ram only. So she says, yeah, this is also right. So she goes back again. Like a tennis ball, going from here to there. And then finally she makes a very interesting conclusion. When she goes back to Ram, Ram says, no, I'm already married. Look at the conclusion she makes. The conclusion she makes is that actually both Ram and Lakshman want to marry me, but Sita is a problem. If Sita doesn't exist, then both of them actually want to marry me. Then she attacks Sita. I mean, the mind can really fool you, isn't it, royally? And what conclusion she makes? Completely unrelated conclusion she's making. And then Ram tells Lakshman, you should know whom to fool around with. There are some people who do not understand humor and don't try to act humorous with such people. And then Lakshman comes and does the first ENT surgery in the world. Heart. Both ear, nose gone. Now the interesting thing, as I said, this whole humor element it's kind of, it's, so in the interesting thing about Lord Ram is that whenever Ram does something funny, he doesn't get away with it. Because Lord Ram's character is a serious character. Krishna does any kind of funny things, he gets away. Krishna can get away with anything funny, isn't it? He does the biggest mischief, he'll get away with it. But Lord Ram does any little mischief also, he gets in big trouble. That's how these the avatars are. The character of the avatar is like that. So if you are a serious person, don't try comedy. That's the lesson. And if you are a funny person, don't try try serious stuff. Be true to who you are. You'll do better. Krishna is known as Anubhav Pradhan, and Lord Ram is known as Anushtan Pradhan. Krishna is the role of Krishna in this material world. The reason he has come to the material world is to give us an experience of the spiritual world. That is the only reason Krishna comes to this material world. He gives the Anubhav of the spiritual world. Just like if you want to see a 3-hour movie, you first see a 3-minute trailer. If you like the trailer, then you invest your money, time, energy into looking at that 3-hour movie, isn't it? 3-minute trailer is free. 3-hour movie, you have to pay a price. Similarly, when Krishna comes into this material world, the pastimes that he does in Vrindavan is free for all of us to watch, to witness, to understand, to hear, absorb. And if you love those pastimes, then you have to put effort to go to the spiritual world. Pay the price. 10-16 rounds every day. Follow regulated principles. Attend Mangalarti, do book distribution, so many things. And effort is because that's the price you have to pay to go to to see the full movie. But Ram comes to the material world to give. He's not come here to give us an anubhav of the spiritual world. He is not an Anushtan Pradhan. He has come to the material world to teach us what it means to be an ideal human being. Maryada Purushottam. What it means to be an ideal person. What it means to be an ideal person when you go through problems in life. When you go through problems in life, how do you deal with your problems? Learn from Ram. When Mother Kaikeyi told Lord Ram that he has to go to the forest for 14 years. Now, for you and me, it's not easy to handle that, isn't it? If you're given a news suddenly that, you lose all your money. You're suddenly given a news that, something calamitous happens to you in your life. It's not easy to handle, isn't it? So when Lord Ram is given the news that he has to go to the forest for 14 years and he's not going to become the king of Ayodhya, the moment he got that news, he smiled. He tells Mother Kaikeyi, my dear mother, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. I always wanted to go to the forest and learn from the sages. These 14 years are not 14 years of exile, but these are 14 years of learning for me. He completely looked at the whole thing from a different perspective. For now, the exile is not a problem for him. The exile is education. It's a time to learn. It's time to study for him. He looked at it in a different perspective. That's what we learn from Ram Leela. So when Lord Ram was going into the palace of Kaikeyi, there were citizens of Ayodhya who were standing around watching Lord Ram go in. They didn't know what happened inside the palace. They were all standing outside. And then Lord Ram comes out of the palace. When Lord Ram comes out of the palace, the citizens of Ayodhya are looking at him. Now they've seen him go into the palace, and then they're seeing him now come out of the palace. What has happened in that duration? He has got the biggest bad news of his life, isn't it? But the citizens of Ayodhya, the way they're looking at it is very interesting. One citizen says, when Lord Ram went into the palace, he was like a bud, lotus bud that is closed. But when Ram comes out of the palace, he's like a fully blown lotus. So the citizen is saying, wonder what happened inside that Ram is glowing so much. Yeah. I mean, who can do that? which human being can handle something like that? And that's what the whole idea of Sukha Dukkha Samaya Kritva Labha Labha Jaya Jayo is. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says that a person should be equanimous in misery and happiness, in labha and gain and loss. And so what is the meaning of that? So Krishna says it in the Gita, but Ram does it in the Ramayana. So the best commentary of the Bhagavad Gita is Ramayana actually. Every verse of Gita is actually, there is a story in the Ramayana. And the interesting thing is that when you study Krishna and Ram's life, study Krishna's words and Ram's actions. Don't try to study Krishna's actions. You'll get confused. So this combination is very good. Ram's actions and Krishna's words. That's why Ram is Anushtan Pradhan. He's come here to teach us what to do in this material world. And the whole idea of Lord Ram being here in this material world is so powerful. He's teaching us in every situation of life, how do you behave? How an ideal human being behaves. How an ideal human being deals with things in life. And we all need a good example, isn't it? And Ramayan sets an example so high, not easy to reach there. And that's what the whole journey is. When Lord Ram is addressed in the Ramayana, in this particular episode, Ram is addressed by 3 names. Tulsidas Ji in his Ramcharitamanas, he addressed Lord Ram by 3 names. The first name he addresses Lord Ram by is known as Kula Deepak. What is the meaning of Kula Deepak? Deepak means light. Kula Deepak means he is a light of the Raghu dynasty, of the Kula, Raghu Kula. The interesting thing about a lamp is that, first of all, a lamp gives light only if there is oil and a wick. So it needs some external thing. If there is no oil and wick, the lamp can't give light. Right? So, in the beginning, Ram is introduced as Kula Deepak. But the moment Kaikeyi tells him that you have to go to the forest for 14 years, Ram at that point, he is not called as Kula Deepak, he is called as Mani. Mani means he is a gem. Gem doesn't need an external source of light, isn't it? For a lot of people in this world, to shine, they need some power. They need some position. They need some authority. They need wealth. They need some external thing. So Kula Deepak means someone who is a king. So that means he has external power, authority to shine. But once the kingdom is taken away from him, Ram is not called Kula Deepak, he is called Mani. A gem, a diamond shines on its own, has its own light. It has its own way of shining basically. It doesn't depend on external source. Now Ram doesn't depend on a kingdom. It doesn't depend on power and authority and position to shine. He'll shine like that only. That's the greatness of Lord Ram. And then as Ram is stepping out of the kingdom of Ayodhya, then Ram is addressed as son of the Sun dynasty. What is the meaning of son of the Sun dynasty? Of course, he is a descendant of the Ikshvaku dynasty, of Surya dynasty.
Who gives light to others.
Yeah, but the point is, the sun, it doesn't depend on anybody. Have you ever seen somebody putting light to the sun? Nothing. The sun can light up the world. And the most amazing part of the sun is that the sun doesn't light up only one place. It lights up the whole world. So far, Ram was Raghukulam. He was only part of the Ayodhya. He was lighting up Ayodhya. But now he's going to light up the world. Because he's moving out of Ayodhya. Just like the sun. The sun is not attached to one kingdom. The sun is not attached to one city, one state. The sun belongs to the whole world. Similarly, now Ram belongs to the world. Look at this. What an amazing insight, isn't it? What an amazing way of looking at something so simple. This is what acharyas are about. This is what the whole idea of katha is about. So let us not look at katha only from an external perspective. Let us look at katha from a very internal perspective. Let us not look at katha from just from the point of view of entertainment, but let us look at it from the point of view of transformation. The katha has a power to transform us, but it depends on how we listen, how we hear. I'll tell you a very interesting story of Gokarna. There was a Brahman whose name was Atmadev. He had a wife who was very, very arrogant and very difficult, very angry type person. And this man and his wife, they didn't have a child for a long period of time. Atmadev was very disturbed. He went to the forest one day. He thought there's no point in living. I'm living such a miserable life. In the forest, he was thinking of contemplating ending his life. At that point, he met a sage. And he told this sage about his life. And the sage told him, don't worry, life is meant for higher things. But somehow Atmadev was stuck at the point of having a son. The sage said, fine, if you want to have a son, let me give you. He gave him a mango. Told him, give this to your wife, let her eat this mango and she'll have a son. Atmadev goes back and gives the mango to his wife. His wife, when she really suddenly realizes that she's going to have a child, she freaks out. She said, no, I don't want to lose my beauty and my shape, So she said, instead of eating the mango, she cut the mango into half, gave half the mango to her sister, and gave the other half of the mango to a cow. And both his sister and the cow gave birth to a child, different children. His sister gave birth to a boy whose name was Dundukari. And the cow gave birth to a boy, body of a boy, only ears of a cow. Imagine the shock of the cow when she gave birth to this. So this boy came to be known as Gokarna. Only ears of a cow, basically. So both these boys grew up very differently. The mentality of the mother, her name was Dunduli, went into her son Dundukari, and he became an absolute demonic person, doing all kinds of obnoxious things. And the consciousness of the cow went into the son of Gokarna, and he became a wonderful person, great sage. As this boy grew up, Dundukari became really, really bad. At some point of time, his mother refused to give him money for something he wanted, and he jumped into the well and he ended his life. Oh, before that, actually, he killed his mother because she didn't give him money. He killed his mother, and then he felt so bad that he killed his mother, and he jumped into the well and died. So then Atmadev felt so bad that his family is just finished like that. He went into the forest, never came back. And Gokarna was living alone over there. And one day, as Gokarna was sleeping in the night, he heard a voice. Empty room, but voice is speaking. And nowadays, people hear Alexa all the time. Used to the ghost around us. Hears everything, speaks everything. Anyway, so he heard the voice of Dundukari. And Dundukari told him, I need your help. Please save me. I've become a ghost. So Gokarna said, what can I do for you? He said, no, I don't know. You figure out, but you relieve me from this ghostly existence. I have full faith in you. So Gokarna decided to figure out what is the way to relieve him from ghostly existence. And then one sage told him to read Srimad Bhagavatam. And if he reads Srimad Bhagavatam to Dundukari, then he will get relief from the ghostly existence. And Dundukari, he agreed to sit and hear Bhagavatam narrated by Gokarna for 7 days. And Gokarna asked him, how will I know that you are relieved from this body, from this ghostly existence? He said, every day I will break one twig. And on the 7th day, when the branch completely breaks, then you will know that I am liberated. So Gokarna began narrating Srimad Bhagavatam. Every day he began to speak Bhagavatam. And as Gokarna was speaking Bhagavatam on a daily basis, there was a big group of people sitting and hearing Bhagavatam. And as Gokarna was narrating Bhagavatam, every day there was a twig that was breaking a part of the branch. And on the 7th day, the entire branch broke. And Gokarna knew that Mundugari is liberated. But Gokarna was amazed. He said, Dundukari got liberated, but there were so many other people also hearing Bhagavatam. How come they didn't get liberated? So he went and asked his guru, Suryadev actually. He asked Suryadev, what is this? How come everybody else didn't get liberated and this ghost got liberated? And Suryadev gave a very interesting answer. And that's probably something that all of us can also meditate on for ourselves. He said, the transformation that a person experiences doesn't depend on the Vakta, but it depends on the Shrota. So if the Bhagavatam is same, everyone hears the same Bhagavatam, but different people hear the same Bhagavatam with different intentions and with different levels of absorption. To the extent you are absorbed in the right consciousness, with the right intention, to that extent Bhagavatam will purify you. To that extent Bhagavatam will actually, transform your heart. Otherwise I can hear the Bhagavatam all life long but experience no transformation. Simply because I have not lent my ears and my consciousness in the right way. So we should allow these scriptures to enter into us. I remember many years back when I was just passing out of engineering, I had this pride of being an engineer. Nowadays, everybody becomes an engineer and then figures out what to do in life. That's like the latest trend, Anyway, so when I was 21, 22 at that point, I met a very exalted disciple of Srila Prabhupada named Gopi Parandan Prabhu. I, in my naivety, told him, Prabhu, I want to master Srimad Bhagavatam. Can you tell me how I should master Srimad Bhagavatam? Gopi Parandan Prabhu told me something I'll never forget in my life. You know what he told me? He told me, Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna. You can never master Krishna. And that really struck me. And I realized all our scriptures are so deep and so beautiful and so oceanic. We can't master any of them. But let's dive deep into them and enjoy the swim. And the experience of diving into these scriptures and just experiencing the joy of reading, studying, understanding and absorbing these scriptures is so immense. It doesn't really matter whether you measure the length and breadth of the ocean, you will never do it anyways, right? But just swimming in the ocean is an experience by itself, So I think let us all in that mood and that consciousness absorb ourselves into these scriptures, especially the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, each of which is an ocean by itself. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anybody has any quick questions or comments? Give me the books also, what is relatives?
Prabhuji,
Yes.
I was a bit lost in the first story which you gave, where you talked about anything which touches Rama's feet is pure, and also you correlated that to Bharata worshipping Rama.
Oh, okay.
I got lost there a bit.
Got it. So, what I meant to say was, Lord Ram's Paduka, the footwear of Lord Ram, was carried by Bharat to Ayodhya, right?
Yeah.
So, every day, Bharat would wash the footwear of Lord Ram in the Saraya river. So, naturally, when he's washing the footwear, the dust from the footwear of Lord Ram is entering into the river. And that river is going and merging into the ocean. So, which essentially means the river is getting purified first, and then that purified river is entering the ocean, so the whole ocean is getting purified. So, from Lakshman's perspective, the ocean has now become a devotee of Ram, basically, because he has got the dust of Ram's feet. And he's thinking, if someone who has got the dust of Ram's feet gets destroyed, it will be a bad example to the world. Isn't it? Anything else? Any other questions, comments? Yes, please.
I have a couple of questions, some clarifications from Ramayan. Many times, many people quote that after Lord Ram had killed Vali, that Tara married Sugriva. Is that a fact? Is that mentioned somewhere in Valmiki Ramayana or even any other Ramayana? And same thing is after Ravana was killed, did Mandodari marry Vibhishan? So there's a lot of misconceptions around that.
So, when Vali died, when he was on his deathbed, he was like dying, he hands over Tara to Sugriva. He tells Sugriva to take care of her. And at the end of, so basically in Vanara Kula, the dynasty of Vanaras, it is allowed for a sister-in-law to marry the brother-in-law after the husband dies. It's a part of the culture. And Lord Ram also gave the permission to Sugriva to get married to Tara. So this is very much in the Valmiki Ramayana in terms of Vali handing over the responsibility of Tara to Sugriva before he dies. That's my understanding and study, as far as I have understood and studied it. You have some other Praman?
No, I was just based on what I have read in Valmiki Ramayana. There is no exact verse which says that
So that's what. It's not
Sugriva
an
married
exact.
Tara.
It's not an exact verse. But if you actually study the next part of where Lakshmana enters into Sugriva's room, she's very much there in the bedroom of Sugriva.
Right, so that also, I think there is a word which is used. Lakshman is speaking to Tara and he is addressing her as that you are Bharata, right? Your Bharata has forgotten his responsibility. So that word Bharata is there, which is translated as husband. But Bharata also means just as a maintainer, that who is maintaining you. So there's different interpretations of that.
That's up to us to decide how we want to look at it. But as far as I have understood and as far as I have studied, whatever commentaries I have studied, it seems pretty clear that it's a husband-wife relationship and not just, she's living in that. It's pretty clear, basically. I mean, obviously now it's open to debate because there's no specific thing you can find. But at least what I have heard from various Shiva Vaishnava said, the idea is about how Vanaras have that exception. That in the culture it is like that.
Okay.
But in the case of Ravana and Mandodari, that is not the way it is. There is no specific mention like that over there in Mandodari's case. That's for sure.
Because there are many quotation which goes around which says the same sin which Vali had done to
Ruma.
With Ruma,
Yeah.
right? And then same sin Sugriva also did later.
Yeah, that's
Rama
not
sanctioned that.
Yeah,
So
it's not
that's
a
what is-
see. This is one is after the husband dies, and one is when the husband is alive. A big difference. It's not the same at all. It is not the same at all. Big difference. On top of that, I'm saying there are verses where Vali hands over Tara to Sugriva. So it's not that Vali is just not handed over. He is handed over. He has handed over Angad to Sugriva, saying that he's your son from now onwards. So Vali has officially done that. So it's Vali's desire also, basically. Yes.
Guruji, first of all, I felt your class was excellent, but rather short. Felt it should have continued some.
I can go on forever. But time is always going to be short, isn't it?
I had a couple of questions.
Yeah.
One was, in the beginning you spoke about association with people who have mental disease, right, and getting infected. An example, you in the physical sense you spoke about avoiding that, right? But in the real sense, it's not possible many a times. So how do you deal with those kinds of situations? You cannot distance yourself. You have to be with them. They could be right in your home or anywhere else.
So basically, if you do not have the ability to deal with them, it's good to take help. That is the first thing. So now there are different types of mental illnesses. There are some very serious mental illnesses that need intervention. And there are some attitudinal disturbances which need love. See, most mental illnesses stem from insecurity, from a sense of insecurity. Manthara, she triggered Kaikeyi's insecurity, basically. See, Kaikeyi grew up in a family where she didn't have a mother with her. She grew up only with a father. She didn't have a mother with her. So as a child, Kaikeyi grew up in a very insecure situation. And typically what happens is, there is in psychology, there is a concept which is known as adult ego and child ego. So this concept says that when you are in a problem, when you are in a crisis or in a problem, you deal with the crisis or a problem in the exact same way that you have dealt with it when you were a child. So when we are children, we develop some defense mechanisms to deal with problems in life. So some children, the way they deal with problems is by becoming angry. Some children, the way they deal with problems is starting crying. Some children, the way they deal with problems is by blaming somebody else. So each one of us as a child have developed one way in which we feel we can deal with problems. Some children start saying sorry, even if they are right. They're not doing anything wrong, because they feel that, just by saying sorry, I can get away from problems in life. So each one of us find our own unique way of dealing with calamities and problems in life from our childhood. And typically when we go through calamities in adulthood, that same insecurity and that same defense mechanism sets in. And we behave like that. So when you find somebody showing bad attitude in your family, around you, remember they are acting like a child which is insecure. And an insecure child needs love, attention, and someone to reassure, saying that everything will be okay. And then they start behaving differently. At that time, if you go and start chastising them and getting heavy on them, they'll become even worse. You get it?
Yes.
So here in my analysis, Kaikeyi was made insecure by Mantra. Mantra kind of triggered her insecurity towards her father, towards her son, towards her own self-respect. And then Kaikeyi behaved so differently. If somebody had just reassured her that nothing like this is happening, she would have been so much different. Nobody gave her the reassurance. Everybody tried to tell her that you are wrong. Everybody tried to tell her that, this is not the right thing to do. And nobody gave her reassurance that everything is fine.
Prabhuji, actually, just to add to that same question, if that same mental disease exists in you that you recognize,
Yeah.
how do you address that?
See, the first step in dealing with mental disease is acceptance that I need help. I am struggling. That's the first step in dealing with any kind of mental diseases. The second step is, if I am struggling, I find someone who can help me with it. That's the second step. And third step is that when that person is trying to help you, accept that help with gratefulness. These three steps are the key steps to deal with any kind of attitudinal issues. Yes.
Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for the enlightening class. Prabhuji mentioned that Srimad Bhagavatam will purify us to the extent of that we absorb it. So how do we increase that absorption and fully soak in every word of nectar in scriptures?
I tell you what has personally helped me in my journey. First thing is, when we study the scriptures, every word that is written in our scriptures is Krishna, is not different from Krishna. So that means nothing is written just like that. There is some meaning, some reason, some deeper thing inside it. I may not know what it is, but I need to attentively read it. That's one part. The second more important part is, like when I eat some food, just by eating the food is not going to get digested. If I eat and go to sleep, it's not going to digest the food. I have to eat and go and do some work in life, then the food gets digested. Similarly, when we study the scriptures, when we study Bhagavatam or whatever scripture, along with studying the scripture, we also should do some service to great souls. When we do some service to great souls, my God, people are,
All the Vanaras, Jama.
Vanar Sena.
enthusiastic. So when we take shelter of this of great devotees, in my life, the only thing that I have done good is I've served some great souls a lot. And if I have any realization in my personal life, it is not my intelligence, it is that service that has got me realizations. So I highly recommend people don't just sit and study the Bhagavatam like like you do with your textbooks and college and school stuff. It doesn't work like that. So here the process of digestion is in a different way. So you study and you serve. You study and you serve. You study and you serve. That combination is what gives you realizations. Realizations is not by your intelligence. It's by the service and the blessings of the great souls that realization dawn on you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Prabhu. It was very thought-provoking. Still processing the question that Prabhuji was asking about mental illness, and the other one that you mentioned about Ram's ability of building bridges, not building walls. So when we are surrounded by people with mental illness a lot, right, we try to protect ourselves by building walls. But when we want to follow the qualities of Lord Ram and want to build bridges, how do we protect ourselves and still connect?
See, your source of nourishment has to be different from your source of sharing. You cannot expect love from the same source that you're giving love to.
Yeah, correct.
You understand? You get love from somewhere and give love somewhere. The problem is we expect love also from the same source when we give. In Kali Yuga, you cannot expect reciprocation in the same way. Not possible.
Now I understand marriage, Prabhuji.
Wonderful.
That is no realization.
See, this is perspective. I am speaking something, he is understanding something.
Yeah, Prabhu is talking from his home, Prabhu. I'm more talking from outside.
Got it. So the answer is the same. See, basically, a well, for it to give water out, it has to be filled. Only when the well gets filled constantly, it remains fresh. And for the well to give, so basically, any well, if you see, if it only gets filled but it does not give water, it will stagnate. It will start stinking. But if the well is only giving water and doesn't get filled, it will get empty. So the well has to simultaneously be filled in, but at the same time it has to also give water out. That's the whole idea of how love works. So many times we are in this mood that somebody has to love me, somebody has to love me, somebody has to... Arey Baba, you also have to love somebody. Isn't it?
And love means service.
Exactly. See, the whole idea of love, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he talks about three things, which is entire Vaishnava Sampradaya is about three things. Namaruchi, Jivadaya and Vaishnava Seva. Namaruchi is for yourself. So you nourish yourself by chanting the holy names, by absorbing yourself in Katha, Kirtan, etc. And Vaishnava Seva is about serving devotees. Jivadaya is showing compassion to the world. So out of these three things, two things are for others and one thing is for yourself. So that means 1/3 of your life is for yourself and 2/3 of your life is for others. That's the combination that works. If you try to live 2/3 of your life for yourself, selfishly, and you share only little for the world, you are going to be miserable.
Can you state that again, please? One more time.
I said there are three components to what spiritual life is: Namaruchi, Vaishnava Seva, and Jivadaya. So Namaruchi means absorption in the holy name, absorption in Krishna Katha, Krishna Kirtan. Vaishnava Seva means serving great souls, great devotees. And Jivadaya means showing compassion to all the living entities. So, which means of these three things, each one of them is 1/3 of your spiritual life, right? So, in your spiritual life, 2/3 of your spiritual life is for others, and 1/3 is for yourself. So, those who actually live like that, where they are 2/3 of their life is for serving others, and only 1/3 is for themselves, they actually make progress. They make great progress. And therefore, if you see Goswamis of Vrindavan, they give up their family, they give up everything, and they went to the forest, in Vrindavan forest, right? But even in Vrindavan, they were serving society. They were not disconnected from society. They were very much serving society. They were not like living, lives that were totally disconnected from the world. You study Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam begins with sages of Naimisharanya who are worried about Kali Yuga, people of Kali Yuga. So a sage means someone who is concerned about other people. The problem with this world, this word depression goes on too much, isn't it? I tell people, I'm not talking about clinical depression, that's a different story. Most regular depression that we know of, most depressed people are selfish people. They only think about themselves. The solution to depression is seva. Go out and serve. All your depression will go away. The more you think about yourself, you will be highly depressed. Go out and serve others. That's the solution for depression, basically. Okay. So now I just...
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful class. My question is regarding when Lord Rama was in Chitrakoot, the whole Bharat along with the whole Ayodhya arrived at Chitrakoot and they all wanted Lord Ram to come back. So Lord Ram said, I'll not come back because I have given promise to the Dashrath that and he had given the words to the Kaikeyi. So I couldn't come. Then Kaikeyi also lamented and said, I take my words back. I also want you to come back to the Ayodhya. And at the same time, his guru said, Vasishtha, you have to come back. This is my orders. So that time, Lord Ram did not obey his guru's orders as well. So how these two contradictions work?
See, it's like this. The whole idea of what Lord Ram was trying to do is at a very different level of thinking. See, Ram obviously is going to become the king of Ayodhya at some point of time or the other, isn't it? When he becomes the king of Ayodhya, he will instruct people and expect people to follow what he says. For a king to instruct and expect people to follow what he says, he has to set an example himself. So 14 years, Ram set an example what it means to be an ideal follower. And then after 14 years of being an ideal follower, when he comes back and he tells people do this, nobody will say no. Because he already, himself 14 years he has, showed. That's the idea. So Ram wants to set an example for what it means to be an ideal follower. The king has said it, means that's it. The king is Naradeva. He's God. The words of the king is not just random stuff. There's a deeper meaning behind what the king says. And Lord Ram wanted people to respect that. Wanted people to respect. And in fact, he took the father's words even more seriously than his own guru's words.
Yeah.
Because the father was not just his father. The father was the king of the land. And he is the representative of God. And if you want people to look at Lord Ram, eventually, when he becomes the king as the representative of God, he has to set a standard that he himself has followed. That's the whole idea. So in the Ramayana, the whole discussion between Ram and Bharat, we study that discussion. Maybe someday we'll do that discussion. The discussion between Ram and Bharat is not about who is right and who is wrong. This discussion is who is right and who is more right. Bharat is telling is right that you become the king. Ram is saying no, it is more right that you become the king. It's a very different level of discussion.
But how you integrate with this Vasishtha Guru's orders?
See, Guru's order can be disobeyed in many situations of life.
Okay.
And Bali Maharaj also disobeyed his Guru's orders.
Bharat
So-
also disobeyed.
Bharat also disobeyed oneself. so the point is, see, this disobedience is not exactly disobedience. In fact, if you actually understand it, Vashishta is more proud of Ram for not following him, his order.
Right.
Because Vashishta understood that Ram understood him. By not following him, he actually understood him better. You understand? So for you and me, whatever they say, we do. Like Gaurkishore Babaji Maharaj, when he left his body, he made a declaration that should drag my body across the street of Navadip. People are actually thinking of dragging his body. Bhakti Siddhanta day, you fools. That's not what he meant. So some stupid people, they take things literally. But when you actually understand the mood of your spiritual master, you understand what exactly he means to say. Sometimes he says, do this. He is saying, don't do this. You understand?
Just like
Yes.
Yeah, so, well, thank you for a wonderful discourse. Really enjoyed it. So my question to you is, I'm really blessed. I'm reading Bhagavad Gita for the very first time. And it's been fantastic. I'm sure I'll read it all my life, but it'll not be like the first time. But one question I had is, when I either, they say that Vedas and Puranas and all the holy scriptures are infallible, and we should not try to understand it with the limited senses, intelligence and stuff like that. So if I come across a word or a sentence or a situation which I don't agree with, how should I approach it? For example, today, you were describing Ram, Lakshman and Surpanaka. I did not find that funny at all. I thought they were body shaming her and bullying her. That's how I'm thinking. So it's like, so how should we approach when we read or come across something like this? Yeah.
So basically, there are many perspectives towards anything. When somebody is trying to come and harm you, so now Shurpanaka was not exactly coming with the intention of love. That was not at all her intention. If love was her intention, Ram would have dealt with her very differently. I mean, Ram is a person who has never ever looked at anyone based on their bodies. I mean, look at the way he treated Sugriv and the Vanar Sena. They are monkeys, they're not even human beings. The way he treated Guha in the forest, completely. The way he treated Vibhishan and so many of the people who are from the Rakshasa families. So Ram is not about externals, but he's about intentions. So from that moment, Shurpanaka stepped in, Ram could figure out the intentions were wrong. And that is why he felt, it's okay to have a little light moment. And of course, that costed him. That's a different story. But Ram was not from a... That's what I'm saying. So these stories have layers, basically. So from one angle, if you see, it might seem wrong. But if you look at it from another angle, it might seem something else, basically. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. This is the last question we'll take for today.
There's one more in the back.
Okay.
Thank you for a very wonderful class, Prabhu. We're very grateful to you. So in the story with Lord Ram and Shurpanaka, you said sometimes when we look in the mirror, we never see our true selves. So Shurpanaka considered herself to be beautiful even though she was not. So likewise, when we step out to help other people who may be suffering from some mental illness, how do we know we ourselves are not suffering from those symptoms?
Yeah. So basically, we have to do a self-audit for ourselves. And every one of us on a daily basis, if possible, or at least a yearly basis, should do a self-audit of how much am I making progress in my selfish levels, basically. There's a very beautiful thing that I would like to share with you all. So the Bhagavatam, when it describes the living entity, the Bhagavatam calls all of us as Jantu. That's the word the Bhagavatam uses to call a living entity. What is the meaning of the word Jantu? Jantu means thing, it, basically. Like the Bhagavatam is calling all of us Jantu. Why? Because by birth we are selfish. Innately we are born selfish. If you look at small children, the moment they are born, they are holding, right? The grip of that child, my God, if they hold something, they won't leave it only. So, and most, as soon as children were born, we put everything in our mouth. Because we want everything for ourselves, right? Someday, as we grow older, so in the first 4 or 5 years of our life, it's about taking. We don't care for others. Someday in our journey of growth, one day we start thinking, my mother is feeding me every day, let me feed her one day. I pick up something and feed the mother. That day you progress from Jantu to becoming a Jiva. You made one progress, one level. And then when you study the Gita and you understand that you're not the body, you're a spirit soul, then you go to the next level of what is known as Atma Tattva. And from the level of being of Atma Tattva is about seeing everyone equally, with an equal vision, Samadarshi, And then from that level, you go to the level of Vaikuntha Chetana. So Atma Tattva level is the level at which we respect everyone equally. And Vaikuntha Chetana is the level at which we worship everyone. So now we are right now at the Jantu level only, basically, to a great extent. And we have to make progression in our mindset. So we have to assume that we have not made great progression unless you actually see that compassion in your heart. So to the extent we are selfish, I'll give you a simple example. It is very easy to stop eating meat, but it's very difficult to follow the principle of compassion. So what is meaning of why we don't eat meat? We don't eat meat because one of the pillars of dharma is compassion. Unfortunately, I know so many people who don't eat meat, very compassionate on the table, but they are very violent to people sitting on the table with them. Isn't it? So are we following the regulative principle? Big question, isn't it? So it's just that on an external level we are following it, but on an internal level we are very far away from it. So when I look at myself and my own progress spiritually, I need to look at whether I'm progressing on an internal level also. Externally, yes, I'll progress very fast. It's very easy to wear dhoti kurta, it's very easy to wear tilak, it's very easy to wear kandimala, very easy to follow the regulative principles, chanting, very easy. But an internal journey is a long journey. It's a very difficult journey. And that's why when people look at us as spiritualists, they don't think that we're spiritualists just because we're chanting 16 rounds. They feel that we're spiritualists if we behave nicely as a good human being first. The whole Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks about these Trinadape Sunichena, these three things: humility, tolerance, and respectfulness. These are three human qualities. These are not divine qualities. Yes, human qualities. And when you practice these basic human qualities, then you can do Kirtaniya Sadhari. So many times we apparently are practicing spiritual things, but we have forgot to become good human beings in the first place. That's where the self-audit is needed, basically. So and the interesting thing is that I know at what level I am, if I'm just honestly looking at myself. I know what the way I am, So nobody else can know us, right? Who else can know us? We're very expert in acting, isn't it? We're very expert in putting up a facade. So, but how can you act with yourself? How can you, fool yourself? You have to live with yourself only, right? So that's where self-audits help. Okay. Thank you. Prabhuji, one last question. Yes.
Thank you for blessing us. Lakshman Rekha.
Yeah.
Is there a reference of that event in Valmiki Ramayan? Number one. And sorry for my ignorance, because that is one thing that showed a little bit of negativity on Lakshman because he drew boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And slight negativity on Sita Mata as well because she violated. Maybe my ignorance. So, if it exists, really, what is its context or significance in the current?
Yeah, Lakshman Rekha is not in the Valmiki Ramayan. It is not part of the Valmiki Ramayan at all. Valmiki Ramayan says that Lakshman prayed to the Vanadevatas, to the forest gods to protect Sita, and he left from there. So it doesn't talk about him drawing a line, basically. Of course, having said that, the story of Lakshman drawing the line is not it's not something absolutely wrong in the context of the mood of Ramayana, basically. We can talk about that story, no, it's not a problem. But the way to talk about the story is this: that line represents the line of respect. So when, in your life, when you are having a relationship with somebody, there will always be a point where you cross the line of respect. The moment you cross the line of respect, the relationship breaks, isn't it? Similarly, Lakshman Rekha represents the line of respect that he draw. So when Ravan tries to cross that line, that's when the relationship changes, basically. As long as he was within the boundary and talking to Sita, there was no problem. But the moment he tried to cross that line, that's when the whole relationship changes. Of course, you can say that Ravan tried to pull her out of that line, whatever it is, whichever way you look at it. That's the way I would understand. Again, as I said, it was Lakshman's little effort in trying to protect Mother Sita. He knew that I can't protect her anymore because she's pushing me to go. But at the same time, he wanted to do his best to help her, sometimes destiny does what it does, isn't it? We can only put a little effort in trying to avoid what is about to come. Okay? So I'll just quickly introduce all of you all to my books. I wanted to give a quick overview of my books to all of you so that you understand what they are. There was a time when I had only a couple of books, so it was much easier. But now I have 40 books and people don't even know which book is. So nowadays I make a little introduction of these books.